Hello everyone. So we just released the CodyFrame version 2.8.0. Now for more details about how to upgrade and what's included in this new release, please go to the GitHub repository of CodyFrame. You will find a link in the video description. Now, the main thing about this release is a new way to control the spacing system and the typography system using CSS custom properties. Let me show you an example. So I have imported into my project this pricing table component from CodyHouse UI. Now, if we check the SCSS of this component, we have a class that we use to target all these card elements. Now, let me resize the window. If you have been using CodyFrame so far, you know that we set global responsive rules. Now, as you can see, when we go past a specific breakpoint here, the medium breakpoint, we have an increase in the spacing and in the typography sides. So let me show you slowly. As you can see, both typography and spacing becomes bigger, so they increase. And this is done in CodyFrame setting custom properties. For example, if we check the spacing file, we have that at the medium breakpoint, we increase the space unit from 1em to 1.25. And we do something similar for the typography. So we increase the text space size to 1.25, always at the medium breakpoint. This is obviously customizable. Now we wanted to do something different. In this release, we wanted to give you the possibility to modify the spacing and typography on a component level, because these changes here that I just showed you, they will affect the whole website. So all the typography elements and all the spacing elements. Now let's go back to our component. So pricing table. Now, if we want to control the spacing on a component level, we can now use the space unit variable. Let me set this space unit variable equal to 1.25. And nothing changes because it's the same global value we're using for all the other components. Now, if you want to control the typography, you should use the text unit variable. But if you do use this variable, you should also make sure to set the font size equal to the text unit variable. If you don't want to write 2 lines of code, you can just use the text unit mixin. Here we go. Now let me show you how you can control spacing and typography using these variables. It's really simple. You can just change this value. For example, if we switch from this value to 1em, as you can see, the spacing is decreased. We could set like a huge amount, 2em, and now we have a lot of spacing, and all the margins and all the paddings, they are all affected by this change. So let's switch to 1em. You can do the same with the typography. We can, for example, increase the typography of this component by 1.25. Now, in most of the cases, you're not going to make huge changes using these custom properties, but this is something that you should use for those small tweaks, because maybe changing the whole typography and spacing system as a whole is not perfect for that specific component, so you can rely on these custom properties. Now let me show you another example where these new variables are very helpful. So let me switch to another example that I have here, this dropdown. Okay, so I have imported another component, the dropdown component, and well, everything is working fine so far. Now, in CodyFrame, the default unit that we use for spacing and typography is the M relative unit. But it comes with some potential issue. Let me show you an example. So we have the dropdown component here, And if we check the structure, we have this component inside another div element, which contains also some text. So if we change the typography of the parent element, for example, text XS, now we are targeting, because we're using M units, by changing the font size, we are changing the font size of all the children as well. Now, this is very small, but as you can see now, the drop-down element is smaller too, because it's included in this component. What if you want to prevent the compounding effect caused by the M units? You can use the same custom properties to change the spacing and typography unit. For example, you can set the space unit equal to 1 rem, and then you can use the text unit plugin to set also the text unit equal to 1 rem. So by doing so, you're switching to a system for the drop-down component that is based on rem units. And rem units are not affected by the current font size of the element, but by the font size of the HTML element. Now, if we go over the drop-down element, now as you can see, this style here is perfect. It's no longer affected by the parent font size. So you may want to use these custom properties in so many ways to control the spacing and typography on a component level, or to completely change the spacing and typography unit always on a component level. So that's all about the main change in CodyFrame version 2.8.0, and thanks for watching.